Hey, hi everyone. Hi everyone. Hi everyone. Welcome to the first DevOps NG event of the year. It's been a while, and that's been because of some reasons. The pandemic, I guess. I think everyone knows that already. So we've been working around that for some time because here at DevOps NG, we're already used to the pattern of having physical events. But right now, we are trying to get our hands around the whole virtual thing because we have to work with that. We actually don't have any option, and we have to be working with that. So right now, we're doing more virtual events, and that's the way forward from now on. And my name is Favor. I'm Favor, and I'm going to be your host for the event. I'm part of the DevOps NG community. And yeah, it's going to be quite a chilled event. We have different people that will be joining us, different DevOps engineers that will be joining us. We have Dako, we have Kunle, we have Towu, and we have Wale as well. So it's going to be quite relaxed. And our team for the event, as we all know, the DevOps outlook in 2021 and beyond. So why did we go with this team? This is because of what's actually going on. During the pandemic, a lot has been going on. Opportunities, people have been making money even while the pandemic was on. So we are like, why not come out and share this whole opportunity to you guys and people that want to join the DevOps community? Why not come in and talk to you people about it as well? So this is going to be quite a relaxed session, nothing so serious. You could grab your snacks if you're at home. If you're at work, you could grab your coffee and relax, watch, listen, enjoy yourself. It's going to be quite relaxed, entertaining, and enlightening as well. And we'll be having giveaway sessions as well, where we'll have Kahoot sessions. People get to ask questions, people answer questions, we ask you questions. If you get our questions right, we have a little token to give out as well. So it's going to be quite a lot, enjoying, entertaining, and engaging as well. So stay hooked. So starting, we'll have our guests introduce themselves. They get to tell us who they are, what they do, and basically where they're streaming from. So we'll get Darko start and introduce himself. So yeah, Darko, please.
Thank you very much. And first of all, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to talk to you all at the DevOps Nigeria meetup. Um, my name is Darko. I'm a developer advocate for that I work for AWS. I'm based in Berlin, Germany. I've been working for AWS for the last 5 years now. Started off in premium support, worked up my way through solution architecture, and now I get to scream at the camera and talk to you lovely folks. I have a relatively long career in IT. Started as a system administrator, the thing that used to exist sometimes before. And yeah, work with a lot of development teams, and I'm very intimate with DevOps because I think it's the best thing. So, yeah, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Darko. Thank you, Darko. Idowu, please get to introduce yourself.
You are muted.
Okay, okay, I think okay.
Yeah, we can hear
My
you.
yeah, I put my mic. Let me start that again. My name is Emil Do. I'm currently an SRE at Demos. Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, sure. Where are you streaming from?
Currently I'm streaming from Lagos, Nigeria. I'm streaming from Lagos, Nigeria. Just in my room. Yeah, and this is somewhere that goes down as my workspace. Yeah, which
Okay.
I've been working for the past 1 year.
All right, great. Um, Kunle, please get to introduce yourself.
Hi guys. My name is Olakunle Abiola. I'm a DevOps engineer. And then my major focus is on supporting teams and making sure software delivery is as optimized as possible. Um, I'm here to talk to you lovely guys today. And share ideas about like the outlook of DevOps this year and beyond. And I'm here with my good friends, and we're just here to give you guys some good information and share our experience and knowledge with you. So thank you guys for having me, and let's all have fun.
Sure.
So I'm streaming from
Ola-
Lagos, Nigeria.
of course, yeah. Olawale, please get introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. It's good to be here. So I think before I say anything, I want to say a big shout out to DevOps NG for having me on board this time around to share one or two things with everyone. If maybe some of you know me from my days with Carbon, I used to head the IT and security department back in Nigeria, but currently I'm based in Ireland. So I'm streaming from Ireland. I currently work with Noeda, but seconded to Ericsson, where I manage the deployment solution for about 20 or more customers in the cloud. So I'm looking forward to a good time chatting with everyone. So let's watch out.
Yeah, let's watch out. um, Olawale, you talked about moving from Nigeria. So how long has this been? Was this recently?
Yeah, recently I moved last year. So I think still pretty much in my early days in Ireland here. So
Oh wow. Oh wow. Okay, so I think we'll start with you. We'll start with we'll want to know like what DevOps is exactly, because we have some people joining us that don't really have a strong background with DevOps, and they want to know what it is exactly or what it is not, because we have some people misunderstanding or misinterpreting what DevOps is. So I think you should get to define DevOps for us, please.
okay. I think it wouldn't be a challenge known to people that are new to DevOps alone. Even veterans and seasoned people in DevOps seems to still find it confusing. And but first of all, I like to say DevOps engineer is, for me, is not really much of a title. It's not about title. I think it's about a process. It's about a way of working, which is, I wouldn't say is emerging now. I think it has come to stay. So it's a synergy between development team and operations team. So let's say development teams, the usual software developers, the guys that write the code, build the applications, and why the operations team are the guys that we really don't know much about. Like if you listen to Darko, he talked about systems and starting as a systems admins. Those are the guys that you find in your operations, and that's pretty much my own background as well. They are your network engineers, they are your server administrators or systems engineers. They work in. If you look at how how development teams were organized in the past, they actually work in silos. Maybe software engineers are sitting somewhere while operations guys sit somewhere else. So, but with DevOps, pretty much what the definition is has helped to bridge that gap, bringing those two independent teams together into one. So it has helped software delivery lifecycle to be very fast, rapid, agile enough to respond to business needs. And so if you just find it so confusing to understand what DevOps, you just say Dev plus Ops. So it's as simple as that.
Dev plus ops. Dev plus ops. I'm okay. So we get to hear people talk about development and operations engineering. Then we get to also hear people talk about systems. So where exactly do we even draw the line? Because I think so many different names have been given to these DevOps, or I don't know where exactly do we draw the line.
Okay, so let me pick your question precisely. You are actually looking at the systems engineers. Where do they fit in this?
Yes.
Right. So going back, I said DevOps engineer is really not much about a title. If you go
Okay.
to a very standard big organization, they don't refer to them as DevOps engineers. They
All
don't.
right.
So they can actually still maintain their title, which is systems engineer, but adopting DevOps principles. So you
Okay.
can also have software engineers adopting DevOps principles. So it's not really about the title. And if they actually use title, I have nothing against it. Yeah, because I actually applied for a job with a title DevOps engineer.
Of course.
Yeah, and during one of the conversation we had was about that title and expectation. So it's not so much about the title, it's about the principle and the way of working. So the systems engineer can still fit into the operations role because that's pretty much his own involvement in the entire process. But the way he's thinking has changed from the traditional systems engineer that, oh, I'm just responsible for this. Now he now has to, for example, he has to participate in stand-up, product requirements gathering. He has to participate in that kind of meeting, and he has to also think the way software engineer is thinking,
Yeah.
to help them accelerate the deployment pace of the application they're working on.
Oh, okay. Okay. Dapo, I could see you are nodding your head all the while.
Yes, I
So,
am.
yeah. So, so you totally agree with what Olawale was saying.
Yeah. So let me actually start with saying what is not DevOps. And I worked in
Okay,
an
I'd love to
environment
hear
where
that.
not DevOps. As Olawale said, that you have these silos of groups of people doing different things. A company I used to work for, we were pretty much split across the middle between the people who develop applications,
Okay.
system administrators, and even network administrators were a separate thing. So in that scenario, we really didn't work together. It was more of a like, hey, here's a task for you, here's a task for you, and let's try to agree that somebody will do something. So
Okay.
there was a lot of waiting. The problem with a non-DevOps environment, there's a lot of waiting, a lot of I didn't know what their application was doing. I literally had no idea what are the requirements of that application until it was time to deploy. And it was me. They would give me that file on some random file share and like, hey, can you deploy this piece of code?
Okay.
That doesn't work in a modern system. That could work 10 years ago, 15 years ago, but in a modern system, you need to be fast, you need to be agile, you need to be able to make a change, make a mistake, and then roll back fast, which in a non-DevOps environment is not very easy. and, and and regarding the term DevOps engineer, and that's always a fun thing to discuss. And I apologize for anybody who thinks they're a DevOps engineer. No, you're an engineer. You're a systems engineer that works in a DevOps type environment, because nobody has so far been able to define to me the difference between a systems engineer and a DevOps engineer. Besides DevOps being a more interesting title to talk about.
It's hard to.
It's hard to differentiate. And I think, as long as you're an engineer, so let me give you an example. You work in a team of 5 developers and you're the
Okay.
sole engineer, right? You have 5 developers that are building this application, building this product that your company does, and you're the sole engineer that doesn't build the application but maintains everything around it. You are in essence what they call a DevOps engineer, but you are a systems engineer. You are supporting your fellow developers. You're very close with them. You know what they do. You know all their business requirements. You know all the things. You're intimate with that application and how it works, and you enable them to deploy, test, provision, rollback, observe, monitor, whatever they want. So that's a DevOps engineer or a systems engineer. What would you like to call it?
All right. All right.
Yeah.
Kunle, can you share your view with us on this, or you totally agree with what everyone has said so far?
Oh yeah, so I think what Darko and Wally have talked about so far are really apt. So DevOps to me is also not a title. So I think the closest thing to that for me is SREs. So which are site reliability engineers, and basically this SRE is basically you are in charge of maintaining like the uptime of an application, making sure that like you set the right metrics, set the right SLIs, which are like service level indicators, which are just like metrics you set on applications to make sure that the applications are actually efficient and have um like a reasonable amount of uptime, make sure that the delivery is awesome, and like Daco mentioned, it's very important to be able to roll back as quick as we deploy. All these things are very important. So to me, I totally agree. DevOps is more like a title. It's not really. It's more like practices that everybody on a tech team or anybody interested would actually like imbibe. So it's just like a culture, it's a mindset rather than a job role or like a duty, right, of one person or specific number of people on the team. So yeah,
Oh,
like totally agree with that.
okay, okay. Idowu, will you also call it a mindset? Will you say that DevOps is just a mindset?
Yeah, for me, I totally agree with what everyone has said. I also agree with Kunle. That one is more of a culture, it's more of a mindset. I think for me, in my career in the ops space,
Okay,
particularly, I've heard a lot of terminologies. I've heard a lot of names given to. I've heard DevOps, SRE, I've heard system engineers, I've heard network engineers. For me, I would go with um the qualities or the effects of the so-called DevOps engineer. When you join a team of software engineers, when you join a team of application developers, do you make their life easier? Do you make if it takes them 2 hours to deploy the application before, how many minutes, how many seconds does it take now? Have you reduced their iteration time? Have you reduced their iteration time? Have you just made their life better? Basically, that's just it. That is what me I will focus on instead of the name.
okay, okay. So just making the life better for engineers and reducing the delivery time and everything. Yeah, Idowu, that's what it is for you.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. And moving on, we have a lot of people joining this call that have interest in DevOps that are not in the space already. They want to get to join the community of DevOps engineers as a title, as everyone has called it. But they don't know how to go about it. They don't even know where to start. Darko, currently you work with AWS. So we appreciate it if you could give us a little breakdown on how you got to where you are at right now as a senior developer and what you would tell to people that are looking to get to that place where you are at right now.
Okay. So how I got where I am right now. So I got here by just being an engineer. I I love what I do to a ridiculous amount. So I started, you know, playing around with computers and technology from a very young age, and there's a big echo there, from a very young age, and I've just kind of always been interested by it. And the thing is, that is what drives me. So as long as you have this drive, the technology is the thing you want, the thing that makes you happy, right? You know, when you see a small IoT device like this, you get excited. You know, that's what separates an engineer from a non-engineer. So I basically moved up from being, your lowly system administrator maintaining two Linux servers in a government office to slowly maintaining 500 Windows servers somewhere else, and then changing companies left and right until I finally found something that I really truly enjoy, and especially now with the cloud. So I never was truly a developer. I've never coded for production in an actual developer sense. So I was always that DevOps administrator, DevOps engineer, as you like to call them. I was always that person supporting the developers. And one of
Okay.
the things that always intrigued me is like how to automate things. Here's the thing: you automate things because you are lazy, and that's a good thing, right? You don't want to keep repeating yourself. You want to make things easy for you, but also you want to make things safe. Think about having to deploy a one thing 500 times. You're bound to make a mistake at one point.
Of
So
course.
automating things, having safe rollbacks, having tests and checks is what makes me sleep at night. Right? If I'm gonna make a deploy, I might as well be safe that it can roll back to the previous version. So my advice to everybody starting, number one, if you are not a developer, if you're just a system administrator, if you like computer, if you maintain a computer network or whatever you would like to call it, get into automation, get into the mindset of scripting, get into the mindset of knowing the tooling out there, the things that exist, your infrastructure code, your CI/CD pipelines, your CI tooling, your test suites, whatever exists out there, right? And especially if you're using the cloud, all of that is kind of necessary, right? You can't. It's very difficult to maintain the cloud in a traditional way. Let me put it that way. But I can also suggest something as any good discussion. I can suggest a book. So for all aspiring DevOps people out there, and if you're interested, like, oh, I want to know what DevOps is in an actual sense, there is a novel. It's an actual book. Everybody in the DevOps community has heard about it. It's called The Phoenix Project. This book is a novel about DevOps. So it actually has a story, it has a narrative, but it truly explains what DevOps is. Actually, what is the world without DevOps, and how does a company transition to DevOps? And one of the
Okay.
books that accompanies this one is the DevOps Handbook. It kind of this is the story, and this is the actual hard facts on what and how to transform your company into DevOps. So, highly advised. I'm happy to give the links later on, or the titles in the chat, just so you know.
Yeah, we totally appreciate that. We totally appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Olawale, you recently moved from Nigeria.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what has that transition been like so far? Knowing how Nigeria is. So transitioning from Nigeria to where you are at right now, what was the movement for like you? Will you say it was an easy one or one that came with so much stress?
Okay, so I think I will. What I should do, to be fair to everyone listening, is to streamline the reason why I moved, relating to this conversation, because there could be so many reasons why people move. So I've had a lot of opportunities in the past to move, but which I didn't take. So I think it's only fair for me to also talk about that. So because I moved essentially because of my family, that's number one, and number two, yeah, career advancements. So I saw something I liked and I chased it. So, but let's talk about why I didn't move those times. And this is going to encourage some people listening. If you find yourself in a space where you you have opportunity to learn, an opportunity to grow, I think is worth staying. I think is only fair for you to do self-assessment and look at yourself and, okay, am I at the place where I should be in terms of technical skills, in terms of where I see myself in future. So you can actually find yourself in a current situation now and keep growing, keep learning, keep building great stuff. Then when you get to a stage where you feel like, okay, I have nothing to offer, I think I should go for better challenges, then you can make the move to move. Yeah. So, but believe me, moving is actually simple. It's actually easy. It won't become a big challenge if you know that you've already paid the price for the time you are where you are. So then when you move, because of course you will find challenges in a different dimension. And if we're talking about skills, what you bring to the table in where you're going to, you are not expected to come and be babysitted. You are not expected to be treated as a newbie. The same kind of, let's say, leeway they give to someone that didn't move will not be what will be given to you. You're moving more or less like an expert. You're regarded as an expatriate. So like there's no waiting time for you to learn on the job. There's no waiting time. You're expected to hit the ground running from day one. And if you find yourself in some organizations, yeah, that still give you that room, yeah, you may be fortunate, but trust me, most people make this kind of move because they feel you have huge impact to make. So how can you make that huge impact? You have to pay the price by waiting, learning, acquiring so many skills, learning all that you need to learn. Each day that passes by, you make sure that you make sense out of those day. So for me, on the overall, I think moving has been very, very smooth and easy for me. I'm actually doing what I enjoy doing now, and I still see bigger milestones to crush ahead of me.
Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And from what Darko and Wale has said so far, so becoming a DevOps engineer is basically a journey. Yeah, it's not something that just comes up all of a sudden. So it's a process, a gradual process. You go on, you keep growing on the job, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and okay, so Kunle, Kunle, you work in Nigeria, and I don't even want to talk so much about Nigeria right now. We know some of the issues we have in this country. We have the light issues, we have issues with internet sometimes. So we want to know how you've been able to navigate this whole thing, how you've been able to, despite everything in Nigeria. And as a DevOps engineer, these are things you need to thrive. So how have you been able to thrive despite these circumstances here in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. So for me, being able to thrive in Nigeria, of course, like you mentioned, Nigeria could be quite challenging, but I think for me, it's the challenges have not been so much because a similarity that you'd find across um maybe everybody on this call, myself, and Daco, Wale, that have spoken already, is loving what you do. So I think when that is actually like in place, right, I think navigating through other things will come very easy. So for example, currently I work at Andela, so I have a partner that I work for in the US. So I mean it's more so there's a time shift, so I have to like start working like later in the day as opposed to working from like 9 a.m. I start working from like 2. I think it's cool for me. I think I like it because I mean I like to use like the earlier part of my days to like relax. So behind me you see bike that I like to ride, and have time for other stuff like earlier before work starts. So I think majorly what's having that zeal is the most important thing, right? About any job, like having the zeal and actually developing oneself. So personally, I think I'm also like an advocate of studying, going all out, like in your career. Like I think it's just the only way to go. Like so I read like a lot, like I read like every day, almost every day. Like at least I try to like learn something new, and you know also be able to like contribute like appropriately on the job. Asking questions, like collaboration, teamwork. So those soft skills are really important, especially with the whole shift towards like working remotely due to the pandemic. So building skills like collaboration, like taking that going extra mile to communicate with people and with your teammates and actually like getting stuff done. I think it comes easy, like I said, when this zeal is there and you have the flair for what you do. I think every other thing just falls in place. So yeah, it's been cool working for Nigeria. For me, it's been a good ride.
Yeah, can I add to what Kule just said based on the question?
Yes, please. Yes, please.
So I've had the opportunity to have a feel of both worlds now, Nigeria and working in overseas. So even while I was still in Nigeria, I was working with folks in the overseas. But one thing I would say to everyone listening back in Nigeria is that if you can excel in Nigeria, you will excel anywhere in the world. That's guaranteed. If you've ever gotten a praise on your job for doing what you do, you will excel anywhere in the world. So just
Mhm.
take it. I remember just about 2 weeks ago, one of the compliments I was given on while speaking with a few seniors was that you are good at what you do, maybe because you come from a country like Nigeria, where they know that we have limited resources. They know that
Yeah.
we had to go extra mile to do what would have been easier for other people. So everyone in Nigeria talk about reducing costs of cloud computing. If you are on Amazon, if you deploy on Amazon, you have to be aware that every single dollar that you are spending, wow, because you first of all you have to convert it to naira, and it's about 490. So you're forced to also always think about cost, the cost impact of your solution, or for the architecture you're planning to implement. And when you find yourself in European setting or with an American company, cost is really, yeah, it's a big deal, but it's really not the emphasis. Is how the speed, maybe other things happen comes into play for them. But for us in Nigeria, it's like, just trust me. If you can excel in Nigeria, you can excel anywhere.
Wow. Okay. If you can excel in Nigeria, you can excel anywhere. And this basically from what Kunle and Wale has said so far, um, you have to have the flair for this DevOps if you're going to excel in Nigeria. Basically, it has to be a passion for you. It has to be something that comes naturally, not something you struggle while doing. So that makes so much sense. You have to have passion even before going into this thing, especially in a place like Nigeria where you don't have a lot of resources backing you up. And for Idowu, you work in Nigeria as well. So what has it been like? What's your own story?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you very much, Favor. So
Yeah.
for me, first off, I've been working remotely from Nigeria for a little bit above 2 years. So it's been a long time. There've been a lot of challenges. Kule is actually spot on about you have to actually love what you're doing before you can before that's the first thing before because if internet does not frustrate you, the light will frustrate you. If the light does not frustrate you, the like there are a lot of things that are just out there to frustrate you. So you have to just enjoy what you do and then keep going at it. So for me, DevOps have been fun. I started DevOps from a company in Nigeria that's on site, which
Okay.
which kind of accelerated my growth when it comes to DevOps. So then I moved from an on-site environment to a remote environment. So for me, one major thing that stood out, which was a shocker, was communication. Like I
Wow.
said, I've been doing this for say above 2 years. So communication, because in the on-site setting, I could just if myself and Favor were working in the same company, I have an issue or as the application developer, the code is not running, and I've deployed it. I can easily walk up to your desk and then we try to fix it together. But when it comes to a remote setting where you've never even seen this engineer before, you actually need to communicate as clearly as possible and as frequent as possible. You actually need to be exact. You have to mean what every word you're saying so that the other person does not misinterpret you. And if you think the chat does not cut it out, you have to probably jump on a call to resolve an issue. I think for me, the communication stood out because and it became an evolving thing because sometimes you want to communicate. There's an issue, or maybe there's a production issue. You want to communicate with the engineer involved, say privately in the Slack DM, and you're forgetting that you have a maybe a 10-man team waiting for an update. But you've already resolved the issue in the DM with one engineer, and everybody's waiting. Like, okay, there's an issue. What? We don't know. Are you on it? Are you not on it? Is everybody looking? What's going on? So it means as much as you want to resolve the issue, you also want to communicate effectively with the rest of the team. Okay, we've discovered this. We're working on this. We have resolved this. Is remaining this. Okay, it's totally done. Everything is green now. So communication was a very big task for me to for me to handle. And yeah, it gets better. You keep on and if you're so lucky to get a manager that gives you immediate feedback. So okay, and immediate feedback on things you're good at and things you need to improve on. I think that is a jackpot because it makes you grow. Of course, technically
Yeah.
you sound, but it makes you grow and the soft skill that makes you 100% as an engineer. Yeah, that has been like an highlight of my experience.
Yeah, that sounds like fun and hard work as well. So you
Yes.
you have to do the hard work and the fun part follows it. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about DevOps and the pandemic. Um, this whole pandemic thing, it struck us so much. Like it hit the world last year. It became so pronounced last year. So I would like to know, how have you guys been able to navigate this whole thing? Because apparently so many people had to work from home, and for some of us, we are not really used to working from home. Some of us are used to working at office spaces where we see people on a regular day, rather than working from our houses right now, or maybe creating a workspace where we work from. So what has that been like? Do you think it has been more productive? Dako, I'll start with you. Do you think it has been more productive for you? You have been more efficient working from home, or it was actually better while you were working from an office with people?
Well, in my case, my work is kind of different, as that I was never in the office too much, to be honest, in the last before the pandemic actually, because my job was
Okay.
traveling. So I and my office mates were the community and the folks who go to events and meetups and all that stuff. So I much prefer the fact that I can see you and talk to you and shake hands, and we can have a drink and then have pizza and all that stuff. And things have changed, right? For me, a massive drastic change from traveling every week somewhere to sitting at home. So basically now what has happened is that I've switched completely to via the camera and in this virtual setting. One of the things that I found that has changed prior to how it was before the pandemic was that now I use every chance I can to turn on my camera and look at the other person. And well, before you jump on a call, it's just like, oh, let's talk. Now I try to get the camera on so I can actually see a person. So I would say that my workload has increased, because right now what has happened is that your work can be 24/7, because there's no longer, oh, I'm going to work, I came back
Yeah.
home. Now it's just work is everywhere. So you have to be really careful on your time management. Make sure to set boundaries. Make sure to say, hey, after 6 o'clock, I'm not gonna do anything because I have a family. I have other things to do. I have to take care of myself. So that's what I'm trying to do as well. Just try to limit the amount of time I spend outside of work at home. So
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because we are going to come back to that. We'll be
yeah,
talking about work-life balance for
yeah,
DevOps engineer, because this is something that has suffered for so many of us. Some people, their life are suffering right now because of their work. So we'll get to discuss about this part,
okay.
I think, after we talk about this. So Wale, you get to tell us how it has been for you. Do you enjoy it working from your space right now, or while you are working from an office?
Um, so good and bad. So let me start from the bad. The bad is
Okay.
that you tend to do more. You tend to work more. Uh, I think in this current time, the winner has been the employers, because, like Taco said, you end up spending more than the normal 10 or 8 hours. So that's one of the bad. You tend to not give your family time, or if you are not married or if you don't have a family, people around you, your friends, are also part of the people you ought to give time and room to come into your space. But
Yeah.
you have like a divided attention. Yeah, you can have your friends around you, but it's still a divided attention. So those are the bad. The good is that yes, I'm seeing engineers now being more innovative.
Okay.
For me personally, it has helped me to be very, very innovative. I've had time to come up with ideas, innovations that has really turned things around because you have time to yourself to think, to assimilate, to learn new stuff on the fly and bring it to the table, then change the way you do things. Because pandemic has really forced us, it has forced us to work differently. And I'm seeing the DevOps engineer doing things in a different way, the way they deploy stuff before. There are a lot of metrics now tied to the way we're working. Compared to the past, you're so certain where after if anything breaks, I'll be the first to get to the office to know. So people are forced to add metrics to. That's just an example to what they
Yeah.
do. I'm seeing DevOps engineer prioritizing feedback loop in their pipelines. So the pandemic has actually been good and bad. So for me as well, it has been good and bad. So like Darko said, I'm still guilty of it. I think one of my goals this year was to try to manage my time, but we'll talk about that in the next section.
Yeah, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. Yeah. So Idowu, how has this been for you? I think you work from home more as well. So what has been your narrative? Do you enjoy working from home more, or you prefer the whole office setting?
Luckily for me, 1 year I've been working remotely for about a year before the pandemic came in. So I've
Oh,
had
wow.
experience setting up my schedule, setting up my life around working remotely. However, I can tell you for a fact that working remotely and working remotely during the pandemic are totally two different things. Um, yeah, it was crazy during the pandemic. I don't know why I don't know why exactly. I don't know why. I don't know if it's because now you can't go out when you want, or at least for at the beginning part of the pandemic, you couldn't go out when you wanted. You couldn't do something. There's some restrictions. I don't. I think it was around that or something. But I knew, but I knew in me, and I knew like in the work I did that working remotely on the day when nothing is happening, and the working remotely during the pandemic was totally different. During the pandemic was more stressful. During the pandemic was to me that personally was more stressful. There were a lot of things to think about, and of course the only Nigerian factor came in also the old things that the several things that happened during the pandemic and during, like in Nigeria during the pandemic and things like that. So it was a lot of things revolving around. It was a lot of things so that you have to think of. You have to your mind had to as a Nigerian, your mind had to think about what is happening in the country. Your mind had to think about how to safeguard yourself against the pandemic, and
Yeah.
you also had to be productive at work. So for me, it was two different experience. Pandemic surely got to me, even though I've been working remotely for about a year before the pandemic. So to me, I think it was totally different. There was more work to be done during the pandemic. Um, there were more clients to work with in the company I work for, and there was more work to be done. However, of course, the company was very kind enough to adjust to the pandemic. They give us flexi time and things like that, but it was just still different. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
everybody keeps talking about more work, more work, more work. We'll get to that. We'll get to that very soon. And if you're watching, you can always leave a comment if you have questions. You can leave a comment in the chat session. We'll have a period where we'll get to attend to your questions and attend to as much as we can. So Kunle, what's your story like so far? Does it look like that of other people as well? You enjoy working from home or your workspace or the office space?
Okay, for me, just like all the other speakers mentioned, there are the pros and cons, right? That
Mm-hmm.
came with the whole pandemic and the whole like world shift towards working from home. But I think for me, right, so one, I think in Lagos, like anybody in Lagos, Nigeria, I don't know. Well, not everybody, but I mean, a whole lot of people, like for the traffic factor alone, want to work from home because in Lagos
Yeah.
you could wake up and get stuck and get to work like 2 hours after you leave your house, and coming back could even be worse. So I think that's like a lot of productive time that's just going down the drain. And I mean, if that can be cut short, awesome. But of course, it comes with more work, working from home. At the initial stages of the pandemic, I think now I've gotten to a point where, I mean, once it's time for me to like stop work, I stop and get back to it when if except there's a very extremely urgent need. But I mean that is very important to have that balance. And for me, I think I've enjoyed it more. I've had more time to myself. I've had more time like to study. I've had more time to like mentally like work on myself, like gain more, knowledge, even in the DevOps field. Do more. I've been able to do more, but it's also been challenging, just like everybody said. So yeah.
Yeah, it's also be challenging. And Zako will be getting back to you in a minute. And you mentioned this in passing about having to balance the whole work life thing. So I guess at where you are right now, you've had a way of balancing it. So what has it been, or how have you been able to do this? Do you like totally stop working at a time of the day, or how are you able to balance the whole work and life thing? How are you able to separate work from your life?
So I've it's very difficult to stop working at a specific time unless you have something else to do. And usually,
Okay.
I live at home with my wife, and we have nothing else to do. So one of the things that I've tried to do is I will actually pepper around the day something else to do. For example, I will not start my day immediately at 9 a.m., go to work and check my emails and start responding. No, I will make a coffee. I will sit for the next hour reading a book, doing something off the screen, doing something for my own sake. Then we'll get back to work. I will do an hour or two of work, then do something else. So I basically what I've done is I've actually chunked up my time throughout the day to kind of make it more valuable. Because sometimes, and this is just because you work with somebody who's far away, you have to be online at 10 p.m. in the evening because that's when they're up. So
Yeah.
I've decided to devote parts of the day to me. Um, Also, one of the things I've done is, and now this really depends if on your employer, but I have a no meeting Friday. That means on Friday nobody can take my time. I will only devote
Okay.
time to myself in a sense that I will work on projects, I will work on pet projects, I will work on making myself better. So yeah, I actively refuse meetings on a Friday. So that was one of the things I've done, and that's okay where I work. But I think it has helped me out because Friday comes. Number one, Friday is great, and then you find out that hey, I don't have to sit in aimless meetings with anybody. I can just work on my project or learn or do this course or finish this exam or something like that. Just trying to make myself better, and as you keep making yourself better, you feel good about your time spent. So
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, managing your time. And Wale, is that the same case for you? How have you been able to do yours as well? You separate work totally from life, or you have a way of mitigating the whole thing?
I think before now it was a challenge. I brought my Nigerian mentality down here. So as time goes on, I just realized that the people I was working with, they cared so much about their sanity, and they care so
Mm,
much about their well-being. And trust me, if you're not in a good state of mind, you can't really contribute to your team and to the growth of the company. So um, past six, I was still working, and I remembered a time when I sent emails out to my peers and nobody responded because they are closed. So, but I still kept on doing my own stuff, you know. But then it became a challenge. I noticed that I wasn't right mentally, like because the pandemic really hit people hard, and
Mm-hmm.
in some places maybe you can still even go out, but for me I couldn't see people I used to see. So I just decided, okay, let me do. It's pretty much similar to what Dapo was doing. So I only start work 9 o'clock. Before then, I tried to move around the house, talk to my wife, play with my daughter. At times, take her to school myself, just
Okay.
to have a feel of what outside looks like. So then I get back, start working. Then it's okay not to be okay. That's one thing I also want to mention because the pandemic has really people have responded differently to the
Mm-hmm.
challenge of the pandemic. But it's actually okay not to be okay. But when you know that you're not doing okay, have someone to talk to. Have maybe just take 1 hour, do live chats, live events, do stuff like that. It really helps. So that's what me I'm trying to do, at least to maintain my sanity. Every Saturday, like once we're done with this call, I'm going to call a few people back home.
Okay.
We'll have long hour of calls, and that's what I used to do. I keep in touch with people. Then I try to participate in so many events online as much as possible. That's the way I've been able to bridge the gap recently. Then pretty much like Dakwa as well. One thing about us in DevOps engineering, there's so many tools out there to learn, so many tools, so many new technologies so you can't afford not to do self-development. So I also try to find a way to I don't have much of a luxury to get one day dedicated to myself like that, but maybe take like 2 days off. I do that as well to do self-development. So that's how I've been able to navigate around this time.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You're part of the people that also like cut off work once it's 6 p.m. or you
Yeah,
always okay. So once it's 6 p.m., whatever you're getting, you're not attending to it from work.
yeah. Work is off for me before 9, and work is off for me past 6.
All right, all right.
Yeah.
Idowu, what's your own case? Are you the workaholic that works at night, or you have a way of bridging it as well?
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Favor. For me, I think when it comes to work-life balance, the company you work for has a larger chunk of effect on whether you have a work-life balance at all or you don't. So,
Okay,
so for me, I work with a company. I work with a company in South Africa that started off being remote. So we didn't go remote because of the pandemic. We were remote from the beginning of the company. So it means that a lot of things have been in place to make work-life balance on point. So let me give you a perfect scenario. Um, yeah, I have to work 40 hours a week, but I don't necessarily need to work my 8 hours straight on a Monday. I could wake up on a Monday and I'm feeling tired maybe from the weekend, and I want to start working by say instead of starting work by 9, I want to start working by 12.
okay,
All I need to do is communicate this. I want to start my day by 12, and I still get to work my 8 hours for the rest of the day. So and or I can start and or on some cases I woke up very early and I'm feeling pumped up to do a lot of work, and I start my work by 6 a.m. and by 2 3 I'm done for the day. So like so the company I work for, that's Demos. I've been able to give this flexibility and time just after proper communication with your team, your manager. Okay, I'm working very early today. It means I'll be closing very early, and
okay.
if you need me, just very reach out via Slack or email or something like that. So the flexibility in time has been very helpful for me. So on a Monday, I might work for 5 hours and work my hours, the remaining 3 hours back throughout the course of the week. So on a Monday, I might be feeling okay. I don't want to do a lot of work. I'm feeling tired, or I'm feeling sleepy, or something like that. I work for 4 hours, and throughout the rest of the week, I work. I gain the remaining 4 hours back. So
Wow, you're feeling sleepy. I like the ease of this job, man.
so now, yeah. But of course, the first 3 months when I started, I brought my like Olawale, I brought my Nigerian into the job.
Okay.
8 a.m. You work. Even though you're about to die, you still continue working till 6. And it's not as if anybody is forcing you to do that, but because you're not used to an environment where there's something called ease. I don't even know what I'm saying. I don't, so
Yeah, I
it's
do. I
like
do.
you could be working 5 hours straight, and you have an headache, and you want to take a power nap for 2 hours. You communicate this. Okay, I'll be off for the next 2 hours. However, I'll work my time later. So I could take the power nap for 2 hours, and I wake up by 8 p.m. and work on that 2 hours. And yeah, so the flexibility comes with having a balanced life for me. So that's how I've been able to actually address my own work life balance. I think my company actually solved that aspect.
Oh, from what you said, well, your company has to be the best. Yeah, they
Yes.
give you, they give you the ease to work and all that. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, how has it been for you, Kunle? Do you have the same story as Idowu, or you have something totally different?
So for me, I think it's quite similar. There's been it's been a journey, right? There's been a transition in that work-life balance topic, right? There's been a transition for me. So I
Okay.
mean, I am very similar. Like before I started working remotely for like a company in the US, I worked for Nigerian companies, and I mean, people that have worked with me, especially like my job, like before I started working remotely, right? I used to work around the clock. Like I had colleagues that used to be like, just stop, like, and it's
Mhm.
just like it always said, it's not like there was anybody forcing you per se, but I mean, it's just,
You
for
just had it
example,
in.
there's a problem, yeah, it's just at the back of your mind. You want to get this thing sorted, and then you don't even know, like, it's already past like midnight, or you just have to caution yourself, right? But for me, I think there's been a transition, like I said, and right now it's a lot different, right? So I think the employer or the employers really matter when it comes to work balance, and I don't think
Mhm.
that can be like, taken out of the picture, right? Because currently I work for a company where, I mean, when I joined, I also had that energy. I was working after 5, I would keep going hard, I would just keep grinding, and someone sent me a message, and he was like, "Yo, you need to understand that we don't work like past their own 5 p.m., right,
Okay.
CST. So we don't work past 5. Like, do not send a message. So he told me specifically that some people could really take like an offense, like getting a message from you after work hours. So like,
Wow.
you do it, yeah, like it could get serious, like, so like, I mean, I think the employers, right, like where you work really matters when it comes to work life balance. I've had my manager tell me, like, there was a particular day I was typing, so I was trying to work on something. So this is like, um I was trying to work on like a test suite for an application, and I was really just trying to get it sorted like before time. And I was typing, I didn't even know it was online. And while I was typing, he sent a message. It was like, "Why are you typing? Stop typing." Yeah,
Wow.
stop typing. Yeah, it just sent me a message before I was done typing. It says, "Stop typing. Why are you typing? Go home, go to bed. It's too late. Close your laptop." Like, he told me, and that's my manager. So I mean, I think it depends on like your employer and also yourself, because mental health is is too important, especially these pandemic days. And it's just very important. Like, you could actually be the sedentary lifestyle, like, it's just it does a lot of harm if
Yeah.
it's not properly managed. So that's why it's good to, like, aside like work and self development and all of that, I think it's also good to, like, exercise, have stuff that prompts you to like stand up and walk around, basic stuff, and I think all these things come together in helping one's sanity. Aside just taking a break off work or stopping work at a particular time, there are other things that also need to be done. Like if you have a family, try to spend a lot of time with them. Don't just be on the job and just keep grinding. I mean, you could get burnt out and you would eventually have to rest by force. So I mean, I think it's also it's good to prioritize that work-life balance and actually be intentional about it. So yeah.
Yeah, be intentional about it. Kunle, you mentioned something about relaxing and taking a walk. So we'll get to talk about our lives outside DevOps, because I believe DevOps is not just what our life revolves around. We have other things we do. We have things we do at our leisure time. So we'll take questions and we'll have our Kahoot sessions. But before then, we'll get to talk about what we do outside DevOps. And Ido, I'll be starting with you. When you're not doing DevOps, what are you doing? Are you cycling? Are you jogging? Are you playing football? What else do you do outside DevOps?
Okay, if I'm not on my laptop, I'm either seeing a movie, um, yeah, playing lawn tennis, or you see me hanging out with friends. So if you don't see, if I'm not reading anything, if I'm not on my laptop, basically, if I'm not on any screen, you most likely probably see me on my TV, watching a movie, hanging out with friends, playing lawn tennis. Yeah, that's basically all. Or yeah, that's basically all.
Okay, okay. Olawale, how about
Okay.
you? Olawale, how about you?
Uh, if I'm not with computer, I'm either with my guitar or singing. So
Singing?
yeah,
Oh,
so
wow.
singing, play electric, my acoustic guitar, or that's daddy time, daddy daughter time. So,
Yeah.
so
Okay. Dako, what's it for you?
Um, I'm a big fan. Like I said, I was an engineer all my life, and I'm a big fan of computers. So when I'm not doing computers, I'm doing computers. I collect old computers. I go on and try to find people who sell old technology that they no longer need for no money. So I try to do ridiculous things like getting this Commodore 64 online, for example. I managed to connect this Commodore 64 online and make some AWS stuff with it. So that's kind of a thing I like to do, especially now in the COVID times where I cannot go outside. So at least here in Germany, we have nothing else to do besides stay home. So I stay home, play around with that. I have like an old Amiga computer or like some old Windows XP stuff here. So I kind of entertain myself with that. Have we lost our host?
okay.
I think we lost our host.
Oh,
Is he mute?
Kunle, can you hear me?
Yeah,
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 we can
yeah.
hear you.
We are safe, don't worry. So what do you do? What do you do at your leisure time?
Ah, man. So to be very honest, yeah, I mean, most of the time when I'm not working, even though to be very honest, I'm almost always doing something like maybe not work related, but so I always like personally like not everybody is of that like mindset, but personally it's still work related for me. I try to
Okay.
exercise, hang out with friends, but at times you're just like, okay, now I'm done with all of this. And even with the pandemic, it's not so easy to even hang out, see people and spend time with people as such. You're paranoid about coronavirus. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just sometimes you just want to be at home and save yourself the stress. So when I'm at home, if I'm not seeing a movie or listening to music or singing to myself, I'm probably like still
You
studying,
sing you
maybe.
sing too?
Yeah, I do.
Okay.
Yes, yes. So if I'm not doing that, then I'm probably studying for something. It might not really be like working on like maybe work related. It could just be personal development. I am very heavy on personal development. I
Okay.
like to work on myself, like because that's what you have eventually. If you're working on a tool for a company, that's for the company, right? But what do you take out of that? What do you have? What's on your own? Like who are you? You dig? So there's some particular things that really like come together to make up that thing. So a lot of times, yes, chill with friends and all, but I still find myself back to that. And I mean, there's a time one will rest, and I think the energy drops as one gets older. I think Wale is
Yeah.
older than, like, for example, Wale is older than me, right? And I'm sure,
Oh, you didn't
yeah,
need
no,
to. You didn't.
no, I'm just saying, like, no, like, this is an example. So, like,
Yeah,
for
yeah, yeah,
example, I'm
yeah, yeah.
using
Of
Wale
course,
as
of
an
course, of
example.
course.
His energy when he was probably like my age would definitely not be the same right now. Like, and his energy right now would definitely not be the same in the next 5 years. So I think
Hmm.
now that I have the time to do some things, I just just do them. And yeah,
While you can.
yeah, while I can. That was my example.
Yeah, we know.
Yeah, so that's it.
Okay, so while we're getting ready for our Kahoot sessions, because during the Kahoot sessions we'll get people answer questions from what we've said so far, and we'll have some giveaways, amazing stuff. So let's not even spill the tea yet. So we have questions. We have GD asking a question, and he says, I just put it up on the screen. I hope you guys can see it. He says, do I have to get an expert? So do I have to get an expert certification before applying for a DevOps job? Is the associate level certification good to go? Darko, I think you should take this question.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, depending on what kind of a position you're aiming for, if this is going to be your first DevOps position or DevOps engineer role, your associate level certifications are perfectly fine. Again,
Okay.
certifications here are just to prove your knowledge in things. So that's an excellent way to show a potential employer, hey, I know these things. If you feel that you can go and take the professional ones, which, mind you, usually professional certifications, at least the AWS ones, require not just knowledge but experience. I would just go ahead. Hey, associate ones should be okay to land that kind of a job. So, not sure
Okay.
about the
Okay.
experience of the other people here, but yeah.
Yeah, Olawale, please, can you also chip in? Can you chip in on this? Maybe add more to what Darko said.
I kind of agree with Daco 100% because,
Okay.
but we have to look at the environment here. We have two different environments in play: Nigeria in question, then also overseas. One thing I've seen in the overseas is that certifications really doesn't matter. What matters is the skill that
Experience.
you have, the
Okay.
experience, and if you have the certification, it's a plus. So if you can go for it, go for it. But you get to realize when you even assume the job that your certification actually really doesn't really count. But
Yeah.
because you
Okay.
have to prove what you know, you have
Mm-hmm.
to. In fact, you will be tested during your job. You'll be tested for what you actually have done, what you've built, not what you've been able to pass on paper. But don't get me wrong, if you can do it, you open doors for people in Nigeria. I know that for sure. There are so many, you know how it is back home. If you have, like, for example, AWS DevOps professional certification in your CV, you really get more consideration first before
Correct.
someone that doesn't have it. But it doesn't work like that in European countries or American
Yeah.
companies.
One of the things that so how do you know how many certifications of AWS I have? Zero. Zero. so
Wow.
so it is certifications are great, just kind of prove that you know things, but
Yeah.
after a while you just know things. So
Yeah.
it is great for in some countries, and I come from Serbia. I also, to prove what I know, I had to have something listed on my CV. It was like, oh, then people will notice you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
After a while, people will figure out if you know those things during the
Of
interview or
course.
not. So yeah, but it is good. I would say that associate level should be fine if you want to get started, especially if this is going to be your first DevOps job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
if you want to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that. Our next question will be for Kunle and Itowu. And this question is does any company in Nigeria or beyond offer internships for fresh DevOps engineers since every employer seems to want an expert? So Kunle, I think you should go first. The question is right on the screen. I think you can see it.
Okay, does any company in Nigeria or beyond offer internships for fresh DevOps engineers since everybody seems to want an expert? Yeah, so absolutely. I'm of the opinion that Nigerian companies are not just always looking for an expert. And yes, it might seem so, but their cases, and that's why from the start, when there was something that all of us speakers mentioned, which is about having that zeal. It might sound very, it might sound very unrealistic, but I think what needs to be done to grow needs to be done. I mean, when I was like in my early stages as a DevOps engineer, it was not really about the salary. Like my friends used to laugh at me then. I'd be like, yo, like let's just go spend your salary on lunch. You know, it was just that funny. But definitely I knew what I wanted. I knew that I really just wanted to get this knowledge. So if it has to be like, of course, like every organization, especially right now during the pandemic, it's not so easy to like start onboarding people, putting you under some you know, training you and going all that way. It's easier on site than with the whole working remotely and all of that. So I mean,
Yeah.
if it has to take you walking up to an organization, right, telling them you do not even want to get paid, right, and you really want to learn, like you could have
Okay.
some other streams of income, however, but I mean, if it has to like, if you need to do that, walk up to them, tell them you just want to learn. Like, I mean, I don't think anybody is going to beat you for that, right? And
Kunle,
obviously,
sorry to cut you short. Sorry about that. The whole part of just having to learn. There is this
yeah,
issue of Nigerian companies tending to take advantage of you when you're interning with them. They just
yeah.
they just use you in quotes, as some people say. So how do you even get to draw this line? Because
Okay,
it's an issue for some people.
okay. I think it's great that you also said it in quotes, like they just use you, right? And you don't even know when to draw the line. So I think it's I don't think there's like a book for this. I think it's still like based on what you want and individual based. So what works for me might not work for like someone else. But
Okay.
in my own, due to my from my own experience, I mean, you feel that way at times, right? But I think the most important thing is fixing your eyes on what you want, right? The
Yeah.
company, of course, they would want something. It's not only like Nigerian companies that make you feel used, but I get what you mean. Like, of course, like they want you to work, you're an intern, of course, so do this, do that. You might see it as being used, but I think eventually, you know, it all adds up, So I think it's just most importantly, starting one's career as a DevOps engineer, I think you just have to be focused on what you want to get. Of course, you cannot expect it to be the most pleasant experience, like get so well paid, have a nice time, and because you're trying to learn, you might be working with people that are also busy, very busy, and you might
Okay.
seem like these people are not helping me out, and this is something that actually happened to me. So, right, like I was working, I had a manager, awesome guy, right? But at that time, I just felt like I'm not really getting stuff, but his pattern really worked and helped me, to be very honest, because then I felt like this dude is not really helping me. He's not showing me stuff, but he's sending me resources. Go and check this out. And I found out that eventually I was getting those stuff done. And he was praising me after I got them done and telling me, and it felt good. And that was his own way of, of managing people, which really worked for me. I'm always grateful for that. So I think someone else might just feel like, no, this is I can't do this anymore. But I mean, having your eyes on the goal, knowing what you want, and knowing that that period of being used is just momentary. It's just going to last for a while. I mean, it's not always going to be like that. So I think it's just what you want that really matters, and going for it regardless, and understanding that you are just starting, and it can't always just be smooth from the start. It will
Yeah.
always get to that point where things are like perfect and you're happy and you have the experience, and you can get that perfect job that you want.
All right. We have more questions rolling in. I think we'll just have to take one and call it a session because we still have the Kahoot session and we have our keynote speaker that is still going to talk to us. So this next question is going to be for Idowu. And the question is, I guess we can see it on the screen as well. What are the advantages of the pandemic for DevOps specialists in Nigeria on the global market, considering the bad image, in quotes, we have out there and how DevOps engineers have privileged access to secrets?
Okay. Yeah, this question is very interesting, but I would like to talk about the bad image that is in the question. For me,
Okay.
in the DevOps space, in the tech space, I think we've been able to change that narrative of the
Okay.
bad image. At least to the very large extent that I know, I don't see. I've not worked in any company. I've not heard any of my friends or anybody in general talk about I was not given access to some level of access just because I'm in Nigerian, or I was not given some access to a server. I was not given access to a token. I was not given access to a secret because I'm a Nigerian. So I don't think that's a factor when it comes to tech, when it comes to DevOps engineering in a large scale. The whole Nigerian image does not cut it. Then, however, to the main question, which is what are the advantages? Trust me, for a DevOps engineer, SRE, DevOps system engineer, network engineer, whatever title is attached to your role, I think the pandemic is a blessing in disguise because, of course, I'm not happy about the pandemic. However, uh, the pandemic for me, from what I've seen so far for the past 1 year, is that the pandemic has created more job opportunities for DevOps engineers, cybersecurity engineers, just everybody within the DevOps operation infrastructure space. Because now everybody's online, it
Yeah.
means everything is sitting on an infrastructure. It means there are more servers to maintain. There's more work to do on the infrastructure layer. It's just a lot of jobs available for DevOps engineers, just because of the pandemic. So it means now it means and another beautiful thing is most companies that would rather have you come on site, say in Germany, say in Canada or something, or wherever, now are remote. It means you can actually the floor is open. You can actually compete on a global scale
Yeah.
with anybody from wherever, because almost everybody is now working remotely. So I personally think when you talk about career, when you talk about profession, the pandemic has actually opened more doors for especially DevOps engineers to be able to get more jobs. First of all, availability of more jobs, and
Mm-hmm.
now you can actually compete. And if you know the stuff, you can actually get the job in no time. So yeah, that's like an answer to the question for me.
Yeah. Dako, it seems you want to add something to that.
No, I was just nodding approvingly. So I would say that I would never call this pandemic a blessing, but it's it has moved some companies towards more modernization, towards more being cloud focused and doing a lot of things that had to be done manually in person now have to be done automatically by the means of applying some of the DevOps tooling and principles. So if you're an engineer, a system admin, or whatever you're interested in being in the DevOps world, gives you the ability to do things more now remotely to a much wider client audience. And the client audience is growing because people want to modernize now more than before. So that was kind of my point on this.
Yeah, yeah, that makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
because right now there are more companies getting to the cloud. There are more companies that are using infrastructures because basically everyone is online, and there is need for more DevOps engineers. And I appreciate you all for joining this chat. I appreciate you, Kunle. Taco, thanks for coming. Ido, thank
Very much.
you. Wally, thank you so much.